I've got a bit of a shameful habit. See, I've got this horde of new games, but I rarely ever finish them, let alone start some of them. Feels greedy sitting on this unused treasure, but I'm trying to change. Lately I've been forcing myself to play a new game every month. I'm just struggling to find the perfect one for this month. Look at this rough looking game case. Oh, but I do love Wario. From his round yellow body to the way he says wah during his up tilt and smash. Man, that move lives rent free in my mind. Maybe it's the hand motions or the way it perfectly confirms into waft. What am I even talking about? Let's just play the game. Our tale begins in Wario's castle, where our protagonist sits upon his throne, admiring his mounds of stolen treasure. Stored within is a mysterious black jewel, a cursed relic that was once sealed away after it unleashed evil spirits into the world and wiped out all civilization. Now free from its prison, it wreaks havoc on our greedy friend, turning everything he owns into evil spirits and segmenting his castle, along with its treasures, into 4 different worlds. Now Wario must traverse these lands, reclaim his treasure, and defeat the black jewel.
Welcome to Wario World!
Well, thank you! Wario World is a 3D platformer that released for the GameCube in 2003. It's a hybrid-style game that combines linear and open-world elements. Because of this, it's a fairly short game, containing only 8 levels spread across 4 worlds. The first world, Excitement Central, houses the Greenhorn Forest and the Greenhorn Ruins. The forest serves as a tutorial, teaching you the basics, and ends with a simple boss fight against Greenfist, the enemy whose entire body is green besides his fists. The ruins step it up a notch by adding new mechanics like sticky balls and spawners, ending with a fight against the sandworm in the ruins' depths. Spooktastic World is up next. First, you'll venture through the Horror Manor, starting outside, working your way into the manor, and ending at the basement, where you'll be confronted by the Brawl Doll. Then, it's off to the Wonky Circus, where you'll be able to play various minigames in the tent, before dropping down to the city below to fight Clown around. Thrillville's up third, where you'll first traverse the slippery slopes of the Shivering Mountain to sock it to Winter Windsor, after which you'll continue your ascent up the mountain in Beanstalk Way to take down the 8-legged Spideracticus. Finally, the journey wraps up in Sparkle Land, with the first level taking place in the Mirror Mansion, which surprisingly requires the use of mirrors to see hidden objects, ending in a fight against the deceptive Mean MC. The final and longest level, Pecan Sands, has you traversing through quicksand and sandstorms to reach the top of a pyramid, where you'll confront Ironsider. Each can take anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to complete, depending on how thorough your exploration is. There's always a clear main path and ending, but getting there is only half the battle. Throughout the journey, you'll be required to seek out hidden trap doors containing challenge rooms. Completing the challenges reward you with red jewels that open the boss door located at the end of each level. Most aren't hard to find, I mean it's a giant glowing square, but they do require you to venture off the main path at least a few times. The wooden door challenges tend to be smaller and more puzzle-based, while the iron trap doors are more platforming-based and usually more challenging. They give off a similar vibe to Mario Sunshine's sub-levels. All it's missing is the music. Along with the red jewels, there's a few other collectibles scattered around each world, such as the golden statue pieces that grant heart boosts once all have been collected. There's also Spritelings to free. These creatures were responsible for sealing up the black jewel that Wario released, and despite him undoing their hard work, they're still willing to provide him with gameplay tips when he frees them. Throughout each level, there's also different colored buttons that spawn treasure chests on the corresponding colored spaces. These treasure chests contain the final collectibles, a bunch of random junk. These can range from what the heck is that to, oh shoot, is that a GameCube? I really like this hybrid style. Sure, the exploration isn't super in depth, and if you just rush to the end of the level, it'd probably only take you like 10 minutes. But hunting down the different treasures and doing the challenge rooms was a lot of fun. It's also very fitting that a game centered around a greedy character like Wario would force you to go out of your way to collect some of his treasures in order to progress. There's also a big focus on combat, and instead of power-ups, Wario is equipped with a large pool of different attacks. He can punch, charge, ground pound, corkscrew conk, push, which wasn't required a single time, and suck. The suck doesn't do any damage and only inhales coins, but I just like the noise it makes. He's also got 3 powerful attacks called Mad Moves that can be used to take down bosses and overcome obstacles. The Wild Swing Ding has Wario Bowser spin an enemy, which can be used to knock out waves of enemies or on spin gates to open doors. The Pile Driver slams an enemy into the ground, which is required to enter steel trap doors. And the Mega Toss chucks an enemy forward, which can be used to throw enemies at each other or certain ones at walls to make platforms. Speaking of enemies, there's a surprising amount of variety of them per world. There's a default collection of 5 enemies that spawn in every level, but they're retextured to match the theme. Some might call this lazy, but I found it kind of fun to see what they would look like each time I reached a new level, especially since the themes changed so dramatically. In addition to the reused enemies, each level also contains a few exclusive enemies that match the theme. Using enemies to your advantage is a large part of this game. You can use them to knock out other enemies, as platforms, or to open doors. Even if you accidentally kill an enemy you need, they respawn extremely quickly, so it never felt like a huge annoyance. But with such a large focus on combat, I just wish they'd went a little bit more in depth with it. There's a few combat stats that are tracked, like the number of spins you do and the fall height of the pile driver, but the only one that ends up mattering is the number of enemies defeated, which just gives you more money at the end of each level. Most enemies just die to punch spam, and the ones that are immune eventually fall too if you just punch enough times, which I guess is extremely fitting for a man like Wario. It makes sense he would just brute force his way through his problems instead of using strategy. The bosses in this game are a big strong point too. They're all unique in their designs and attacks. Here's a boss rush of the bosses, but be warned, I'm gonna spoil the contents of a 2003 game. Green Fist is a very simple boss, just beat down on him until he's knocked out. Just watch out for when he charges at you since he's invincible during it. The sandworm constantly runs away, so you'll have to chase after it all while traversing the spike balls and moving sand. Dynamite can only be attacked in her stomach, so don't stay there for too long or else you'll get stepped on, unless you're into that type of thing. Brawl Doll is the first flying boss, so you'll need to use aerial punches or the corkscrew conk to reach it. After taking damage, it'll shoot out sparks that fly across the battlefield. Clown Around bounces between two platformers, throwing its explosive ball between them, so you must hitch a ride or dodge the explosions, all while avoiding the clown's decapitated heads. The Dual Dragons can only be damaged by each other, so beat up one head so it's unable to dodge the other head's fire attack. The Winter Windster floats around trying to freeze Wario. It's too high to reach normally, so you'll first have to throw its bombs into the lava pool it's floating above to knock it out of the sky. Also, don't stare directly at her red eyes. Spider Atticus surrounds itself in sticky webs, making it impossible to jump on it, so just grab hold of a sticky ball and let it bring you to its weak point. Don't stand too close to the spider though or you'll get chomped. Red Brief Jay's main attack is looking horrifying in that speedo. His physique renders him completely immune to attacks, so you just have to dodge until he charges at you, then you can ground pound the floor and make him fall into the lava. Mean MC is a fun boss. It'll hide in one of 3 cups and you have to follow where it goes. Guess correctly and you can beat him up. Guess wrong and I'm not actually sure. I never guessed incorrectly. Yeah, I'm a gamer. Ironside itself is immune to attacks, so you have to beat up on its rock hands and throw them back at it before you can start dealing damage. Just watch out for the shockwaves and fire. And lastly, Captain Skull. He bounces between 2 parts of his ship and you have to follow him. It's pretty straightforward until the end half where he becomes immune to attacks, so you have to throw barrels at him before he can take damage. Now put on your tinfoil lined Wario hat. I've got a theory. I wouldn't be surprised if each world was supposed to contain 3 levels instead of the 2 it did in the final version. Each world contains 3 doors. 2 of them lead to levels, which lead to bosses, but the 3rd leads just to a boss. Each door has a completely different theme, including the boss doors, so it would make sense if the boss themes were supposed to be real levels too. Most make sense in the context of the world as well. World 3's boss fight takes place in a volcano, likely the same one we scale in the previous 2 levels. World 4's takes place on a pirate ship, perhaps setting sail to the temple we saw in the previous level to steal the jewels? However, this is purely speculation, and if true, it would have had to have been scrapped extremely early on, since collecting everything in the first 2 levels each grants you half a heart piece, and after you defeat the final boss, it shows your stats from the first 2 levels. So yeah, this whole theory kind of fell apart. After conquering all 8 levels and 12 bosses, it's time for the final showdown against the Black Jewel. And this has to be contender for one of the lamest final bosses I've ever experienced. Heck, this is probably the worst boss fight in this game. The Jewel first tries to trap Wario between 2 walls of fire, before using one of 2 attacks, depending on how close the firewalls are to each other. It can either shoot out homing fireballs if there's a wide gap, or send out shockwaves if the gap is narrow. To defeat it, all you have to do is shatter 5 crystals to free the spritelings, after which you can perform a mad move to deal 1 point of damage. Then you rinse and repeat, 8 times. No phase 2, no faster attack speed as the fight goes on, just this for 10 minutes. What's strange is that the Japanese version of the game actually did get a second phase. After reaching half health, the Jewel changes up its moveset completely, and Wario has to find openings to attack it directly. It can shoot rings of fire, drop bombs, spit out waves of garbage, and charge at Wario, creating shockwaves. This seems way more challenging and interactive than the first phase was. It even has unique Phase 2 boss music. The second phase was added because the main programmer at Treasure... Wait, Treasure? The developer's name was Treasure, and they created a game about collecting treasure? Oh, Nintendo, you're cheeky! Anyways, the main programmer for the game was particularly attached to the final boss, which led to the second phase. After defeating the Jewel, we're met with a very odd ending scene featuring the Spritlings dancing. There's multiple endings to this game, so I hope you've been collecting as much money as possible, because it's not going to matter at all in the end. Yeah, instead of using your final money to determine the ending you get, the game instead uses your total number of collected Spritlings. Definitely a weird choice considering how prominently coins are featured. They're extremely easy to collect, but you can easily lose just as many by purchasing garlic, revives, and to the ghosts when you fall in the underworld. There's no lives, and the only punishment for game overs is losing coins, so I feel like it would have been appropriate to punish the player in the end for that. But maybe they didn't want to copy Luigi's Mansion too closely. On the plus side, this does give every collectible a purpose. Coins are for revives, Spritlings are for the different endings, statue pieces are for heart boosts, red crystals are to complete the levels, and the treasures are for unlocking the GBA Demos. Oh yeah, collecting all 8 treasures in a level unlocks the ability to send WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Minigame demos to your GBA, if you link it to your GameCube. After fiddling with this monstrosity of a setup, trying to combine a GameCube with Wario World to another GameCube with the Game Boy Player, I was finally able to play these demos on the television. Let's see what they're all about. The first 4 trial versions each contain 7 different microgames that can be played indefinitely until you lose all 4 of your lives, at which point the demo just restarts. The other 4 work similarly, but instead repeat a single microgame that gets progressively more difficult. The 4 selected minigames are Dodgeballs, Jump and Rope, Rappellion, and Munch-a-Bunch. These definitely aren't worth the hassle to play nowadays, but I can always appreciate some wacky little rewards like this. And that's everything Wario World has to offer. It has so much 2000s charm, from the enemies to the soundtrack. The controls felt great, each level was fun. I definitely enjoyed my time with this game, even if it was short-lived. It only took me about 6 hours to collect everything and play the WarioWare demos, but for a game I spent $10 in 2010, I think I got my money's worth. You know what? I'm gonna give this game the love it deserves, by getting it a fresh case. Surely the prices haven't gone up that much. This is a niche game. Alright, guess I'll just stick with my busted copy. It's a shame greed has caused the prices to go up so much, ruining the gaming world. Wait, that's exactly what happened in the game. Wario's lust for greed nearly destroyed his world. Just like in real life. This is Wario's world. And we're all just living in it.